Hi and welcome to Mr. Douglas's Math Channel. Today we take on the exciting world of subtracting integers. Yes, we're going to be taking a look at those minus signs and seeing how does it all add up? Or does it? Here we go. Today we're talking about subtracting integers, and while we'll be looking at subtracting, we're actually going to be looking at adding and subtracting of integers, because it kind of goes hand in hand. Just like when you're talking about bounty hunters, you think of Boba Fett. Yes, the theme in the background is Boba Fett. And as I was talking about that with some students, they actually mentioned Jango Fett, which I thought was interesting. It made me feel a little bit old. I never thought really of any Fett being anyone except for Boba. But, you know, I understand some of the newer episodes sometimes resonate with the younger folk and stuff, but I'm a classic kind of guy. Episode 4, 5, 6, that sort of thing. So here we go. Integers, adding and subtracting. There's a basic rule. Just kind of start off with the rule, and I'm going to put this in kind of kids' terms, because I think sometimes we get caught up in things a little bit using mathematical terms. And here we go. So rule or steps, however you want to kind of look at this. So the very first thing is you're going to ignore the signs. So plus, minus, doesn't matter. You're going to ignore the signs. And of course, we're talking about subtracting right now. I'm going to actually ignore the signs, kind of crazy. You're going to work vertically. I love working vertically, up and down. That means up and down. You're going to put the bigger, remember we've ignored the signs, so the bigger number on top, and since we're working on working vertically, and then we're just going to go and we're going to subtract. That's kind of the key here. We're going to subtract, and then at the very end you're going to take the bigger number sign. The bigger numbers sign. Okay, so this gives us some rules, guidelines, and structure on going and adding and subtracting. Specifically just kind of subtracting, really. So let's just take a look at how that will work. I think examples can be the best way to kind of look at this. I love using examples. So here we go. Let's use 12 minus 18. 12 minus 18. Okay. Couple of things here. Couple of things. We have two separate numbers here. We have two separate numbers, 12 and 18. And they're separated by a minus sign, subtracting sign. Now, there's a sign right here by the 12. Does anybody know what that sign is? We don't write it because we just assume it's there. Well, it's the positive sign. Okay, so this is really saying, positive 12, subtract 18. Another way to write this, to make it really, really confusing, is going like this. 12 plus negative 18. Okay, that's another way that you could write it. When you're talking about subtracting, you're really talking about adding the negative version of things. So do realize there's a couple of different ways to write things. And if you've seen in my earlier videos, you understand that, or you've seen it at least. Let's go back to our little rules and our guidelines. And it said, work vertically and ignore the signs. Okay, I can do that. I'm going to ignore the signs. I'm going to pretend that this does not exist. I'm going to pretend that this does not exist. I'm just going to look at these two numbers, 18 and 12. 18 and 12. I'm going to put the bigger number on top. Okay, so which number is bigger? Think of your number line, 18. And that means this one goes below it, right? Because we're working vertically. And it said I'm going to subtract. Oh, I can do that. Now, 18 minus 12. 8 minus 2, right? You can do that. And that's going to be 6. And this cancels out, being 0, so it is 6. Woohoo! My answer is 6. 12 minus 18 is 6. Well, no, there's one little thing there else on the rule. It said take the sign of the bigger number. So this is the confusing part. Put on your listening skills. Put in your big ears. Look at the numbers, 12 and 18. Which one was bigger? Well, you put it on top, 18. You're going to take the sign. Take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number was negative. So I'm going to go bing, like that. So your answer is Final answer, negative 6. Just like that. Now over here, when it's written this way, that seems, a little bit different. And this is where you want to maybe start thinking of those piles and holes. Now, if I had to draw 12 and 18 holes and 12 piles, that would be a lot. But if you did that, you just kind of think about it, you'd be left with just 6 holes. These would all kind of cancel out. And you'd be left with 6 holes like that. So negative 6. So you may think about that. Let's take a look at some other examples. Let's say you had negative 18 minus 5. Negative 18 minus 5. Now this is going to be a little bit different now. Negative 18 minus 5. So when both signs are going to be negative, so here's a little special thing. Here we go. When both signs are, we'll say not even just negative, just the same. Both signs are the same. Now what do I mean by that? Both signs are the same. Well, take a look at this sign and this sign. Are they the same? Yes. Aren't they? They're both negative signs. So when both signs are the same, simply, I'll say simply because this is simple, simply add and take the sign. Simply add and take the sign. Ooh, okay, well I can do that. So this is negative 18 minus 5. So it says all I have to do when they're both the same, all I have to do is add them up. So let's go do that. Let's go and add. So I'm going to add now. So 18 and 5. I'm going to go and add that. So that's going to be kind of a 13. I'm going to carry that little 1 there, and now it's 23. And it says take the sign. Well, it was a negative sign, so I'm going to just take it. Boom, I took it. And my answer is negative 23. Okay, so you've seen 2 prime examples right now. Let's get into 2 more examples. I'm going to kind of set it up. So let's get into 2 examples. Let's do negative 15 minus 12. And the other example will be 7 plus negative 9. And remember, we can also rewrite this one. I love showing 7 minus 9. Like that. Okay, so a couple of different ways that you could write that. You might be seeing that. Okay. And could we even rewrite negative 5 minus 12? Could you? Could you rewrite this one as negative 15 plus a negative 12? Is that the same thing? It is the same thing. It is. So here we go. These are the same things. Let's take a look at the first one. Both those signs were the same. They're both negative numbers. So we're just going to go and simply just go and add them. Okay, so that's going to be 27. And we're going to take the sign. So we're going to take the minus sign. And there we go. It's negative 27. Over here, the signs are different. So we're going to ignore the signs. I'm going to ignore the negative sign. I'm going to ignore that one. Don't ignore it. Actually, maybe I shouldn't erase it. Maybe I should just like circle it to prove it. I'm going to ignore this sign here. Remember that sign there? We don't write it, but it's a plus sign. Put the bigger number on top. And we're going to go and subtract. Always subtract. 9 minus 7 is 2, and take the bigger number sign. 9 was bigger, so I'm going to take that minus sign. Boom. So my answer is negative 2. Okay, so negative 2 was there. Negative 27 was there. Okay, so that's really interesting. Another thing that you really need to note, there's a couple of special little things. So let's go into the special little things now. I love special little things, and there's so many things to explore on this topic. So special stuff. There you go. So special stuff, big star. Always go left. And when I say go, what I really mean by go is I mean work. So always do this stuff like work. Always go left to right when adding or subtracting. So this is the first special thing we're going to talk about when adding and subtracting. Okay, so the very really important stuff. Always go left to right. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Here is an excellent question. 5 plus 9 minus 1. Boom. What did you do quickly? What did you do in your head first when you looked at that? What did you quickly do? Did you do the 5 plus 9 first? Or did you do the 9 minus 1 first? What did you do first? I bet you did the 9 minus 1. I bet you did. Now you might have done the 5 plus 9 and got 14 in your head. But we always want to move left to right. So we're moving left to right. 5 plus 9. You always do that first. So 5 plus 9. You guys know that one. That's 14. And then 14 minus 1. The answer is going to be 13. Okay. I always like to do this. Now take a look at this one, though. Now this gets a little interesting. 7 minus 10. 7 minus 10 plus 1. Now quickly, what did you do first? Did you do the 7 minus 10 or did you do the 10 plus 1? I'm going to guess you went and did the 10 plus 1 first. If you did it, it would look like this, wouldn't it? 7 minus 11. 7, 11. I'm funny. 7 minus 11. Well, we just learned how to do this, didn't we? 7 minus 11 would be minus 4. Okay, well, what's the big deal, Mr. Douglas? What's the big deal? I don't understand why we're spending so much time on this. Let's go left to right. What is 7 minus 10? If I just did the first part, 7 minus 10, well, that would be negative 3. And I still have that plus 1 here. What's negative 3 plus 1? Well, that's negative 2. Ooh. Uh-oh. What? I don't understand. I'm confused. I got 2 different answers. Well, if we followed the rule of always working left to right, you would only get one answer. And the correct answer, of course, is negative 2. Very important to always work left to right. There's another situation that pops up. And that is when you have a double negative. And you're going to have math teachers that teach you this all sorts of ways. So the next little star, special stuff, is the double negative. Now, first off, the double negative. First off, we have to go into outer space. Okay, so we need to go into outer space where there's stars and there's moons. There's a whole galaxy. There's the Earth, right? There's the Earth. And in the Earth, there's like North America, South America, Europe, and Australia. I always forget everything else. It's horrible, isn't it? Asia and Africa and all that kind of stuff. This is Earth, right? So this is the whole galaxy. And in the whole galaxy, you have to understand there are certain things here. There are positives that float around. There's positives, and there are negatives that float around. So little positives are everywhere. And little negatives are everywhere. And positives and negatives. And the great thing about positives and negatives is a positive will cancel out a negative. And when you do that, so if you have a positive and it cancels out a negative, so these things here, they're gone, boom. These cancel out, boom. So what's left in our little universe? Boom. Boom. What's left? Well, 2 positives. So your answer would be just 2. Oh, okay. Well, this isn't too bad, Mr. Douglas. What's the point here? Okay, I get it. Okay, so if you can understand, though, that there's positives and negatives that are floating around all the time, that's really important for this next thing. So here we go. If you look at your screen right now, and you're all looking at your screen right now, aren't you? Of course you are. Unless you're watching the video with your eyes closed, and that'd be weird. And if I asked you right now, I'm going to make this very obvious. What is the total? Like how much stuff, what's the answer on your screen right now? What's the answer? Well, I'm thinking you're going to say the answer is 0. What does 0 mean? Well, 0 means nothing. Doesn't it? It does. So, but look at your screen right now. Is there nothing on your screen? But you just said that it was 0, nothing. How can that be? Well, let's use that idea. there is a bunch of nothing floating around in the galaxy. Okay, that's pretty cool. And this will help you with double negatives. Let's imagine we had this question. 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2. This is a double negative. Why is it double negative? Because there's two negative signs kind of beside each other. So it's a double negative. This is 3 take away negative 2. Sometimes teachers will just do this. They'll put brackets around this. It says 3 take away. Remember, subtracting means take away 2 negatives. 3 take away 2 negatives. Okay, well, first off, let's just try and show this. So right now, you agree that this is this, and this is nothing. You just said it was nothing. Remember? You just said that. I heard you. Let's go and show this. Let's go and draw 3. 1 positive, another positive, and another positive. Whew. Let's go now and take away 2 negatives. Let's go and take away 2 negatives. Okay, well, oh, I see some negative signs. Let's go take them away. I'm going to take that one away. I'm going to take that one away. And what are you left with? So imagine I really just took them away. Now what are you left with? Well, don't forget, you guys said this was nothing, right? So that's gone. It's nothing. What are you left with now? 5. Your answer is 5. Oh, this is actually what's happening. Now I'm going to give you the kid version. And I always call it the 2 stick rule. 2 stick rule for obvious reasons. If you see 2 negative signs beside each other, and this is how teachers will teach it without explaining why. 2 negatives beside each other, it just becomes a giant positive. Imagine those 2 sticks go together and make a big positive sign. Well, that's a lot easier to think of when you're a kid. But it's important to think of the reason of why that is. And I just showed you. Go and show, maybe mom and dad or your close friend about why that is. They'll be like, whoa, you're a math expert. That's cool. So minus becomes plus. Okay, so this becomes just, boom, 5 like that. Well, let's just take a look at another example because we like examples. So if you had 12 minus, I don't know, 10. 12 minus 10. This becomes 12 plus 10, which is just going to be 22. Pretty cool. Okay, I got that. Not too bad. Remember, it's the same thing if you had like this. Say you had 7 minus bracket minus 6. Like that. Becomes 7 plus 6. Even those brackets don't really do anything. Becomes 13. Woo! Just like that. Okay, really important. Let's just do a couple more just to see how you're doing. And we'll combine some different things right now. So let's just say we had, here's a tricky one. So you have negative 18 minus 3. Ooh, negative, that's a good one. I like that one. What else could we have? Oh, we could have a negative 7 plus a negative 13, like that. That looks exciting to do, that question. And let's go and do negative 9 minus 6. Okay, we see lots of questions. Let's go and work in a different color. Let's work in a nice gold color. Let's go blue. Let's go blue. Okay, so for this one, okay, what's going on here? First thing is you have double negative. So I'm going to change that into a positive. So that would become negative 18 plus 3. Now my signs are different, which means I'm going to stack the bigger number on top. And I'm always going to subtract 18 minus 3, which is going to be 15. I'm going to take the bigger number sign. So 18 was bigger, so I'm going to take this sign. Boom. There we go. So far, so good. Over here, now this is interesting. I could have rewrote this one. I also could have wrote it like this. Negative 7 minus 13. I could have, which makes this easier. Remember, if both signs are the same, so this and this, if they're the same, you just add them. So let's go over and just add them. So 13 plus 7, so 13 plus 7, that's going to be 20. And take the sign. So I'm going to take the sign, which is a negative sign. So it's going to be negative 20. Boom. 2 for 2. Last one over here. Same kind of idea. Negative 9 minus 6. They're the same signs. So I'm going to add them. I'm going to go and add them. Go back to blue. So 9 and 6. I'm going to add them. It's going to be 15. And I'm going to take the sign. Make it minus. 3 for 3. Great job, everybody. Now in the extension section, we're going to take a look at subtracting integers, but this time with rational numbers. Yes, we're going to bring in fractions. Here we go. Now we're looking at rational numbers, adding and subtracting rational numbers. So we're looking at stuff with fractions, and there's been some other videos on this that you've probably seen of mine. If not, go check them out. And I just want to kind of maybe focus a little bit on some different aspects of things. So let's take a look at what happens when you start having these mixed numbers and you're adding and or subtracting. So here we go. So 1.5 like this. So 3 3/4 plus a negative 1 1/2. Remember, this another way that I could have rewrote this. Some teachers will write this as a plus minus just becomes a minus 1.5. So some tricks. This is what I do. I always convert mixed numbers into improper fractions. So remember, the big number multiplies by the denominator and you add the numerator. So 3 times 4 plus 3. So I'm going to get 15. And I'm going to put that over 4. It goes over the original numerator. And this is still plus a negative. So negative 1 1/2, which is going to be 1 times 2 plus 1 all over 2. So negative 3/2 like that. Okay. That's the very first thing that I always go and do. Just like that. So over here, it just would have become 15 over 4 minus 3 over 2. Okay, so same sort of idea is that we need common denominators. Now remember, a common denominator is always going to be the LCM. So what's the LCM of 4 and 2? The LCM of 4 and 2 is going to be 4 itself. That's going to be the actual LCM. So it's all going to be over 4, like that. And this is actually pretty easy to do because the 15 is already over the 4, so that goes there. But for the 2, how did the 2 become a 4? How did that? Well, you multiplied this by 2, didn't you? Right, and that became 4. When you do the same thing to the top, and multiply that by 2, so that becomes 6. And that becomes 6, and what were we doing in between there? We were subtracting, of course, just like that. So what's 15 minus 6? That's going to be 9. So your answer is going to be 9 over 4. Remember, if you have a teacher that allows you to leave things in improper fractions, that's awesome. Yay. Be happy. And if you don't, no big deal. You can go and convert that, and it'll just be 2 1/4. Just like that. So that's how I kind of deal with mixed numbers and improper forms. Pretty important. Let's do one more example. And let's do a little reminder. Let's say you had negative 5 3/5, and you added another negative, a negative 4. It's going to be a 4. Negative 4 1/4, like that. Remember, I could have also written it like this. Just minus 4 1/4. Now we have two negatives here, don't we? We have one negative number here, and we're adding another negative number here, aren't we? So what's your answer going to be? Negative. Just think about it. If you have two negatives and you put them together, you have more negative stuff. Absolutely. So let's go and convert these like I like to do. So now here's a really good here's an awesome common kid mistake. I forgot about this common kid mistake until I started doing this. Common kid mistake. And I totally get this. This is so interesting. Let's see if you can figure it out. I'm going to show you what some students turn negative 5 3/5 into. So when they need to go and turn negative 5 3/5, okay, they need to turn this into an improper fraction. This is what they write. And I want to see if you can actually figure it out. They write it like this: negative 22 over 5. That's what they write it as. Did you figure out what they did? Did you figure out what the KKM is? Well, some kids will say this. This is the thinking. It's so fascinating to see your different thinking. They go negative 5 times 5. They literally use this sign right here. And they go negative 5 times 5. Well, that's negative 25 in their head. And then they add 3. Right, 3 up there. What's negative 25 plus 3? It's negative 22. Right? Yeah. But that's not how you do it. You have to go and ignore this. You ignore this for right now. And you go 5 times 5, which is 25. 25 plus 3 is 28. So it's actually 28 over 5. And don't forget, it's negative. That's how you do it. Interesting, right? And over here, this is going to be minus 17 over 4. Okay, so remember, we already know that our answer is going to be negative because we have two negative numbers here. So you have to go and basically kind of add them together, but we need to have our common denominators here, don't we? So our common denominators this time are going to be 20. So it's going to be a giant, a big 20. How did 5 become 20? You times it by 4. So you times this by 4. So you times this by 40. By 4, sorry. So in my head, I went 20 times 4, which is 80. And then I went 8 times 4, which is 32. And then I added them together. That's how I do it in my head. Kids always kind of wonder, how did you do that in your head? So it's negative 112. And then over here, the 4 multiplied by 5. I don't know, maybe I'll change colors to make it a little more clear. Times it by 5. And times this by 5. And again, how do I do that? I went 10 times 5, 50. And 7 times 5, 35. So it's negative 85. Like that. And then we have to go and add these two together. So you have to go and add them together because they're both negatives. And I get 197. So my final answer in very nice gold color would be negative 197 over 20. Whew! There you go. Thank you for tuning in for another edition with Math with Mr. Douglas. Remember, the sum is greater than the whole of its parts. Ah yes, math wisdom. Until next time, have a great day.